the Alexander County Board of Commissioners to order. It is April 4th, 2016, 6 o'clock p.m. Tonight, the Vice Chairman Milton Campbell is going to lead us in the invocation, and Commissioner Josh Lell will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would, please rise.
Father, we want to thank you for this beautiful day you've blessed us with, Lord, for the spring flowers, the warm weather, and all your blessings. Lord, we ask that you give us wisdom as we try to make decisions that are in the best interest of all of our citizens of Alexander County. Lord, let us remember those that serve us, the EMS, law enforcement, and all the other agencies that help make up this great county. We ask that you lead us and guide us tonight in all that we do, and it will honor you. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Gentlemen, I believe the radio station had trouble hearing us last time. If you would adjust your mics forward a little bit. Commissioner's report. Is there any commissioner that would like to report on anything? Anyone? Okay. You've got the agenda before you. Is there any additions, deletions, or changes? If not, can I have a motion?
Make a motion to accept the agenda as stated.
Second.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion passes unanimously. Okay, first on the agenda is public comment, and we do have two people signed up to speak. Gary Sane, who is going to speak on sales tax revenues. If you would, Mr. Sane, step up to the microphone. Please state your name and the topic. And
I'm Gary Sane. I live in the Bethlehem community. I want to do a recap or a revisit of some sales tax information, retail sales.
okay, before you start and before we start his time, we are going to try to keep everyone to 3 minutes going forward on public comment. That's what our rules state on public comment.
Well, actually, I do intend to finish as quickly as possible. I know everyone wants to get home and watch Carolina play for the national championship. So, okay. Board members, Mr. French, Mrs. Starnes, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak concerning retail growth in our county. During the March 7th board meeting, Gary Herman from the EDC announced the opening of True Value Hardware in Taylorsville. He also spoke about how retail growth benefits the residents and the economics of our area. This prompted me to revisit the presentation by Taylor Dellinger from the Western Piedmont Council of Government gave at the December the 2nd, 2013 Commissioners meeting on how our surrounding counties share retail sales reports as either a surplus or a leakage. The data for his report, which was for 2012, came from the Economic Indicators newsletter, Fall 2013, a publication of the Council of Government. Micah Henry reported in the December the 4th, 2013 Taylorsville Times about the presentation and used the headline, Alex, bleeding money, leakage data shows Alexander's loss is others' gain. And I made a point to save that paper because this impressed me very much several years ago. Alexander County is grouped with Catawba, Caldwell, and Burke County in the Hickory Metropolitan Statistical Area, MSA for short. And from this statistical area, we receive reports and analysis of economic trends in our four-county area. The 2012 data reports that Alexander County had retail sales of $205,692,453. However, our leakage to the surrounding counties was $129,711,542. Catawba County had a surplus of $416 million, and Iredell, which is not part of our district but borders our county, had a surplus of $391.7 million. A great deal of those dollars came from Alexander County residents. Moving forward to 2014 data published in the Economic Indicator newsletter, summer of 2015, and showing Table 3, shows our retail sales grew to $214,445,332 million. However, our leakage also grew to $147,569,466. This leakage increase was $17.8 million. Now, Table 6 of this MSA report shows the leakage by retail type. General merchandise and miscellaneous retailers was a positive for the county with sales of $33.2 million. The surplus has grown since 2012 by $15.9 million. All the other retail types.
Mr. Sane, your 3 minutes is up. If you could just wrap it up real
Okay.
quick. Thank you.
Okay, but our leakage in the others has grown, motor vehicles being the highest, food and beverage stores, like 32.1 million, food service, restaurants, 19.2 million, health and personal care. I just want to develop a program, work on some type of program where we can start addressing some of these shortages in our retail sales, because we desperately need more revenue to support our county. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sane.
Thank you.
Okay, we also have another speaker that had signed up to speak, Mr. Larry Riddle, if you would.
Good evening. I'm Larry Riddle. I'm about to ask you in an area that you have told me before that you have nothing to do with, and that is the roads. And I want to bring to your attention, and I think you've probably already heard about the repaving on Interstate 9064. And even though you folks have nothing to do with it, you do have something to do with it, because we are all citizens of this county, and which means we all pay taxes. I called and talked down in Statesville with Mr. Mark Taylor, and he says they are meeting with the company that paved that road and looking at trouble spots. But there isn't a whole lot you can do. He didn't say this, but there is not a whole lot you can do with asphalt after it's laid there and been rolled and compressed without tearing it up and doing it over. I don't foresee that happening. I did inquire as to where the money went when the job was completed. And he tells me that the company that did it has an office in Mooresville. And I again ask him where the money went. And he says, well, the money is direct deposited in a bank in Tennessee. And that's where the home office of this company is. I don't think they really care about our road conditions in North Carolina that much. The way to get their attention, I think, is for us to make our feelings known, maybe not only to the DOT, but to our illustrious governor and anybody else that would listen. But I would ask you guys in unison to send a letter stating your feelings on that highway. And if you are satisfied with it, that's fine. But to me, I drive a four-wheel drive Dodge pickup truck that, it's atrocious, is what it amounts to. It was a better road when they had, after they ground everything off of it, before they put the new asphalt back on it. But it seems to me that if you folks would send a letter, and somewhere in that just happen to mention that you're on the county board, I would think it would have some helpful impact on these people that maybe they can do something about that road financially in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Riddle.
Thank
This is public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak? Okay. We will go on to item number 2, public hearing, rezoning case 16-1, Lackey. Call on John Pilkington, Planning and Development Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening to the board. Tonight you have rezoning case 16-1 before you. This public hearing is for property owned by Ms. Sharon Lackey that is located along Craftmaster Road and NC Highway 90 East, kind of at the corner, but not really. It doesn't have an actual address because it's there's no structure on the property. Ms. Lackey had requested rezoning of the property from its current HI, which is heavy industrial, to RA20, which is residential agricultural. It was her feeling that the property would be best suited or easier to market and sell as a residential piece of property. The Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing on March the 3rd, and staff recommended at that time that this request be denied due to the fact that it was not consistent with the future land use patterns in the county's 2008 comprehensive plan, which I believe there is also a map showing that as well. And that the request, while it's for a less intensive use, it's not compatible with the surrounding uses and allowing residential development of any kind, even a single house or even potentially a residential subdivision next to existing industry would not be a good planning practice. The Planning and Zoning Commission held the public hearing on March the 3rd, and their recommendation was unanimous that this request be denied based on the fact that it is not consistent with the land use patterns in the area, and it's not consistent, and the 2008 comprehensive plan recommends that the property be developed as industrial. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer them. I will tell you, I don't know that anyone is here tonight, either the realtor for the property or the property owner. I believe they have the property under contract, and the potential buyer, who I'm not sure who it is, will actually is going to purchase the property and just use it for cattle to graze on. But they wanted to go ahead, since the sale had not closed yet. They still wanted to go ahead and at least attempt the request for rezoning. All of this occurred after the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting on March the 3rd.
The property north of that, can you go back one slide? The property to the north, is that a house there?
That is Judy, I can't pronounce her last name
I didn't mean
correctly.
to
Yeah,
interrupt
no,
you.
that's
I just
right,
said
yeah.
that's where she lives.
I know Judy. She works for the town of Taylorsville, but yeah, she does live there, and her husband at one time was an owner in Craftmaster Furniture. But she actually contacted me today and said she would not be able to attend the meeting, but was not in favor of the property being rezoned.
South of the property, is that, that's zoned RA20, is that a home there?
That's correct, yes.
And so the property's under contract, and for farmland, it's not going to impact one way or another the zoning change.
Correct, yes. If the property owner wished to put cattle on the property, I mean, it's not going to be regulated in a way that it would need, the zoning would need to change.
Anybody else have any questions?
That was the only property owner that reached out was today.
Yeah, Ms. Ledford is in the audience. Would you like to speak, or do you want me to? Okay. She had attended the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting as well. She only had a concern about a stream that's on that property that meanders into her, onto her property, and was just concerned.
That's incorrect.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have two springs
Springs.
that are really close to that property that we use as water sources. And I was concerned about pollution.
Right.
Okay. Is that a pond in the center of the property?
Yes, roughly.
No.
Well, I mean, just based on the, what I'm looking at the map.
Does the cattle have any issue with pollution, waste, or anything?
Not knowing the actual makeup of the property and how the potential buyer would fence them in, I would assume, I think, as Ms. Ledford said, the spring is on your property, correct?
Yes, there's two.
So I don't know that they would be getting off the I mean, not that they couldn't, obviously, but I don't see that that would be an issue.
You're the real estate agent.
Say I know the other realtor.
Does anybody else got any questions?
That property, I think I know where the area, but is railroad, does it go right close to it?
It is close to it, and I'm not going to say, I don't have the map close enough in front of me, but I believe it would have access to the railroad, which is another thing that I should have noted as well, that the fact that this property does have access to the railroad, or is very close to it, makes it even more suitable for an industrial use versus residential.
And just to clarify, so you can farm on any type zoning?
Bona fide farms are exempt from zoning per
Okay.
state law. We can regulate them in some ways, but this particular use as just putting cattle on the property, there's not going to be a barn or anything, really doesn't, it's not something from a zoning perspective that we would look at as any sort of negative impact. I mean, the majority of the property in the county is zoned RA20, so anything from any residential or agricultural use would be allowed on the property. So putting cattle on a piece of property that's zoned heavy industrial, if the potential buyer ever decided to sell it because you had a facility that wanted to build there, or one nearby that wanted to expand, I mean, it's just a matter of removing the cattle from the property.
Under highway commercial, not highway commercial, heavy industrial, are you allowed to build a residential house on that property?
No.
No.
And I guess from a tax basis, it wouldn't be like a farm tax type, the farm certification, since it's heavy industrial, it would be taxed.
I can't answer that. That's one for the tax administrator. Yeah.
That's fine.
It may very well be valued, the value I think shows on there, it may very well be valued as a property that would have an potential industrial use on it. But
Is there a noticeable difference in the tax value of heavy industrial versus RA20? I mean, raw land. I mean, I'm just wondering, I mean, I'm kind of sitting here saying, why did they want it changed? What benefit would it, what
Well,
benefit?
they wanted to just sell the property, and they hadn't had anybody interested in purchasing it as it being zoned heavy industrial. because obviously you're looking at some sort of industrial use to be located on the property.
But
And
it
they-
is under contract,
Yeah, it's under contract and basically just going to be purchased so that,
so.
You're gonna have people knocking the doors down to buy industrial property right now.
That's what I mean.
Right.
It doesn't make one difference or another whether we actually change this zoning now, but in essence, local government is holding this property owner hostage to, you can only sell it for an industrial property. And I know it doesn't meet with the comprehensive plan, but, does the community vision override the, private property rights? So that's something, that this board has to judge, and I guess it doesn't really matter now, thank goodness, but I was actually going to vote for rezoning this to residential.
Usually it's a tougher, to me, it always seems a tougher call going the other way, for
Yeah.
a more
Oh, yeah,
business
yeah,
use
yeah,
purpose. In this, I mean, gee whiz, it might be 50 years before we
Exactly.
have heavy industrial there.
Exactly.
If ever.
And most of industrial property, or most industries seem to want to locate in a industrial park now so they don't have conflicts with neighbors. They've got more access to utilities, which this site probably actually has about all the utilities that the industrial park has. But still, there could be conflict with neighbors.
Seems like we're
Lawsuits.
consistently inconsistent.
Yes.
And I can see with being in, right now in real estate, residential, well, not just residential, but tracts of land are selling well because the beef market is so strong. And there are a lot of people in Alexander County that are making a lot of money on beef cattle right now. And I can see how it would be easier to sell residential agricultural, but, like I say,
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
if it's a moot point if it's a moot point at this time.
Well, what I would say is, and you'd probably agree with this, it's a lot easier to sell residential or agricultural property right now. However, this property is special in that it's zoned heavy industrial, and it's very, very difficult to move to heavy industrial.
Back the other way.
right.
And, that's a difficult thing to do. So if we rezone this property residential, to rezone it back to heavy industrial would probably never happen again. So you got to take that in consideration. And I'm just going to tell my comments before we vote. I say I was going to recommend that, that we do rezone this, but since it is under contract, it's going to be used for something that doesn't require zoning change. I think we should deny the request to rezone. And if there comes a point in time where they want to look at this again, then we look at it again. Because it's going to be impossible nearly to rezone this back years down the road. And this property, if industry and manufacturing starts coming back to the United States and starts expanding like it has been, this is a special property and maybe worth a lot more.
Mr. Chairman, we do need to open the public hearing.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, just didn't want to miss that part.
Yeah. Sometimes I forget that. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak? No one? Okay. I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion passes unanimously. Is there a motion? I'll make the motion. Staff recommends denial of the request due to the following. The proposed rezoning is not consistent with the future land use patterns in the county's 2008 comprehensive plan. The request would be for a less intensive use of the property, is not compatible with the surrounding uses. From a staff perspective, allowing residential development so close to existing industry is not considered a good planning initiative. Therefore, I recommend that we deny the request to rezone this piece of property. Is that good? For a second.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion passes 4-1.
Respectfully.
And I understand.
This won't see it in our
Yep.
lifetime.
Item 3 on the agenda, State of the County's Health Report. I call on Lee Ann Wisnett, Health Department Director. I'm not going to go through all these little letters behind your name. So.
No problem. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to bring the State of the County's Health Report to you. Seems like that year comes around really quick. As you remember, we annually, the Health Department's tasked with doing the State of the County's Health Report. And then on the 4th year, we actually do the Community Health Assessment. And so last year was our State of the County's Health Report. And during those 3 years, we look at and track priority issues, and we'll hit the areas that we've been working on for the last few years, but we identify issues, emerging issues, issues that have been around that we're continuing to work on, and it's an opportunity to highlight and evaluate the things that we've been doing to make a difference and see if they really are having an impact. And I wanted to just touch on, we always look at the causes of mortality. We want to know, what's taking the lives of our citizens in Alexander County. And if you'll go to the blue, 23% is number one, and I know it's not the highest number, the 26 to the left is, that's in green, but that 26 is kind of a catch-all. Everything that doesn't fit anywhere else goes there. So we look at those true individual highest numbers, which 23% is cancers, and that's all cancers. And then 21% was diseases of the heart. Heart attacks, congestive heart failure, those kinds of diagnoses. And then chronic lower respiratory diseases, congestive, COPD, and lots of emphysemas and those kind of respiratory issues were the top rankings. And that's been pretty stable for a while. I also actually County Health Rankings came out very recently. It's a Robert Wood Johnson Foundation project, funded project, and the University of Wisconsin Population Health Institute does it. Every year for the last 5 or 6 years, they've looked at across the United States. It's not just North Carolina. It's a huge document. If anybody wants to access it, I've just pulled out a couple of slides to give you the key points to it. But it looks at overall rankings in our health outcomes, and it looks at the first ranking you'll see, and I've graphed them on the next slide, but it shows you how long people live and how they feel about their health while they're doing that. Are they satisfied? Do they feel like they're living their life to the fullest? And then the second area is overall rankings based on health factors. And I'm very pleased that we've actually went up. Even the area that went down a couple of points was still very stable. So you'll see there that the red line is health outcomes. In a nutshell, that's how healthy is our county now. And we've actually went up considerable. The blue is health factors. Those are more long-term things that's not going to change quickly. They tend to portray the future. How healthy will we be, in 5 years and 10 years? So we actually went on health outcomes. We went in 2015, we were 50th. And what I'm talking about now is just North Carolina. You can go on their website and they've got other states. They've got a wealth of information, but this is for North Carolina. We went from 50th, and it's better to be smaller numbers. So that's how we've got it laid out. We went from 50th to 32nd. So that may not be, with statistics, there's always some players in there, but anytime we can get better, I'm all for it. So you'll see over on the next slide how we went to 32nd, and then I thought you might want to see the top 5 counties for North Carolina. Wake County, I'm not sure how Wake got there. They do tend to have a lot of resources, don't they? Watauga, Orange, Union, and Camden were the top 5. The bottom 5, thank goodness we weren't in those, Columbus, Halifax, Scotland, Robeson, and Vance. I also always like to compare ourselves, not that we're really in competition, but I always look at the counties that surround us, and so Iredell County was better than us at 22, but then we were next. Catawba was 34, Wilkes 63, and Caldwell was 69. Pretty pleased with those outcomes.
Lynn, if you don't mind, may I ask you a question right here?
Certainly.
Let's back up to that last slide you had on there, when you showed the top 5 counties, the bottom 5 counties. Now, based on that information that they have given you from this study that they have done,
Yes, sir.
was there any data in there that showed educational, economic areas to show that, how that relates to everything?
They don't give you exact calculations because they do that themselves, but that does impact it, yes. Poverty levels, how many children's in poverty, how many families are in poverty, socioeconomic, there's a tremendous formula based in that. So exactly. Health has a big indicator, but it's also everything around you. And even, for the health outcomes, they even look at your planning department. Are we planning sidewalks? Are we planning active routes, so that our community can walk and exercise? And, lots of factors go in that. It's definitely not just the health department. It takes a whole community to make our county healthy. Lots of people working to make these things better. Good point. And then if you look at your community priorities, these are the areas that were identified year before last. And these are pretty much stable areas we've worked on for the last several years. Healthy families. We did healthy families because we already had so many things for childhood obesity and heart disease and trying to make our families healthier. We left that kind of bigger category so we could continue some smaller projects within that. Substance abuse and mental health. Not news to any of you. And in healthy families, these are the areas that we've worked on. And I'm gonna, in lieu of time, I'm gonna touch on these quickly, but raised gardens, there's lots of gardening beds around, the high school, the Y, lots of the churches, child care facilities. The Ag Extension's done a great job working on that, partnering, the Partnership for Children. Lots of people out there. I will miss a lot of people, so I'm going to stop even trying to name names. But lots of work going into that to teach our community to raise healthier foods, have more access to healthy foods. It helps, cost-wise. So there's lots of benefits to that. Lulu's Child Enrichment Center is actually a SHAPE NC, and I know that's not news to y'all. We've made the national news several times as being one of the first demonstration sites, teaching our children early to eat healthier and activity too. So we're real proud of their demonstration site. Community-supported agricultural programs. This is buying local, eating locally grown fruits and vegetables, and we know we have lots of agriculture here. Speedway to Healthy's in its 2nd year for our students and community, just teaching them the things they can do to improve their health, taking responsibility for their own health. And of course, the farmer's market's new location, I think has helped with visual and being a little more visible to the public as you drive by. Hopefully that'll continue to grow and we'll get more and more farmers there. Substance abuse, you know, we've had the Take Back program for a couple years now. In 2015, it's at the Sheriff's Department, has taken in 500 pounds of medication collected. Our naloxone program, we had grants 2 years ago to purchase the naloxone and distributed it to 7 of our local fire departments. That training went mostly to the medical type responders that were willing to do that. And EMS is actually administered naloxone 67 times in 2015.
What's naloxone?
Naloxone is the, sorry, sometimes that medical I forget. I speak public health. Naloxone is the rescue drug, that if somebody has overdosed, and that overdosing doesn't have to mean illegal purposes. We've actually seen deaths in North Carolina from prescription medication. The person has taken, they may be elderly and have taken their pain medication, but maybe was dehydrated and didn't realize it. They'd been sick prior to that, and they just didn't wake up. Those medications can depress respirations, and the person just stops breathing. It can be illegal substances too. It can be prescription medication with alcohol. Anything that suppresses their breathing, they just stop breathing. And this drug, administered quickly, within seconds, will rescue them. It doesn't last but 30 minutes, so they still need to go to the emergency room, but it saves lives. It's saved a lot of lives across North Carolina. And in, I think it was 2012 or 2013, there was some Good Samaritan laws put into place. So anybody can access this medication. If you have a family member that takes a lot of prescription medication, pain medication particularly, for arthritis, or maybe they have chronic back issues, a lot of people want to have this accessible because the quicker you respond, you can save their life. Lots of stories out there of how this has saved many, and obviously it potentially saved 67 lives in Alexander County.
That's one of the major points going across the United States now, and whether you like President Obama or whether you don't, doesn't matter to me, but the federal government, with a push from President Obama, is trying to push this further across the country. We had one drugstore, and Leanne, I have forgotten the name of it. It was, what pharmacy was it?
Walgreens.
Walgreens they have signed a contract with Walgreens to help take back these medications at there, because a lot of people won't go to the sheriff's departments or law enforcement to turn these in. They're afraid to. So that now the drugstore's gotten involved, and this naloxone program has become a very, very, very valuable asset all the way across the United States. And they've grants out there still now to get those, and it's through the U.S. Department of Agriculture that you can get these grants to be able to purchase more and more of this product, because they have found it's saving a tremendous amount of lives, and it's working. It also works to help people come off the drug also, whatever they're addicted to. So it's a real, real good program, and the federal government's behind it. When we were in Washington, D.C. about 4 or 5 weeks ago, they had a real good program on this, telling what was going on, how it was happening, how it affected people, and families, and citizens of the United States. So very good program, and I'm really glad to see that here in the county that we're using it and it's accessible, and our folks are well trained, and our emergency medical personnel here in this county are well trained in the way to administer this product.
And one of our focuses is to make it accessible for families. So if there's a family out there that needs a prescription for naloxone, actually our grant that we funded, the medication is we've distributed all, or we don't have any now, but we can write a prescription. We've actually got standing orders at the health department so that families can access this. And even pharmacies can contact, there's a state pharmacist that will write a prescription. So there is ways, even if you don't have a family doctor, families can access. You just have to have a need for it. A family member takes prescription, there's a risk to the family member. So they have done a lot with the laws to try to save lives. I made you a picture. That's actually what our kits look like. The funny little, looks like an arrow or something at the very top left. we wanted people to not be nervous because the medication, EMS would give it either IV or IM, inject it like a shot. But you can actually just push it into the nose. It can, you can just inhale it. So that's what that atomizer is to make it easy. It was a little adapter. That way people don't have to get nervous with needles. And now there's all kinds of newer products that's more like inhalers that's making it easier and easier. But now it is fairly pricey. When we were purchasing it, it wasn't nearly as bad as today. It can be, closer to $100 for each. But thank you for that. It certainly has saved lots of lives. Mental health, of course, mental health is still a challenge in most of North Carolina. I am thrilled to say at the last county-wide meeting we had a meeting with Smoky Mountain LME. I was talking about the need at the health department is so great, and since then we have had meetings with RHA, our local provider, and we're thrilled to say we're going to pilot an outreach person at the health department. Hopefully, we're still working out all the staffing and scheduling, and you know how any new project takes a little work. But by June 1st, we're hoping to have all that done and pilot and see how successful that is. And with transportation issues and some other issues, we're particularly concerned with our pregnant moms that have substance abuse issues and really need some treatment and find it difficult to access some of those services. So hopefully June 1st, we will have a new program at the health department. I'm not sure where, in what closet, but we will put them somewhere. On Mondays, if you're in our parking lot, that can kind of be fun maneuvering because we are busier than ever, which is a great thing. So, the emerging issues we've been working on, always talking to folks about cancers, having prostate screens, mammograms, any of those preventive services, we're out there. Tobacco prevention, I'm really proud that we've really seen great improvement with our tobacco-free policies, not exposing our community to secondhand smoke, third-hand smoke, which is getting more press lately. And we actually got a grant to do some outreach for HPV vaccine, and I won't go great into that, but that's another, anytime you can take a vaccine to prevent something, and this is the top one that causes cervical cancer in women, we're all for it. So teen pregnancy, we're still working, lots of partners out there working with that. Our School Health Advisory Council, Caring Hearts Pregnancy Center, and the Community Collaborative. We've several churches, lots of work, because our last year, as you know, was the first year we were higher than the state statistics for teen pregnancy. The numbers just came out about a month ago for, you're always way behind. It was 2013 data. We got a little better, but I'm not sure that's accurate, just due from the clients we're seeing and the stories we're hearing. So still need to do a lot of work in that area. And these documents, I gave you a very brief synopsis of it. We have these documents available on our website, alexanderhealth.org. They're at the health department. Anybody can walk in. I'll be glad to give you a copy. Hopefully everybody knows where we are on First Avenue. That post office is a good landmark. If you can find the post office, we're just behind there. They're also available at both libraries and at the administrative building. So we want people to, it's great statistics if somebody's writing a grant, or they can contact me and I can email it to you. So I appreciate your time, letting you know where we're at, and we will continue to work on these areas to make our community healthier.
Great.
Leanne, I'm going to make one, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make one more statement that really astonished me. The United States is 5% of the world population. 80% of the pain medication is taken in the United States. It's amazing. 80% of the pain medication is taken in the United States. No wonder we have such a tremendous addiction. And it continues to stick in my mind because it's totally mind-boggling. Bogging, or whatever you want to call it. It just really was amazing that we would have that many people, that 5% of the population, the world population, and 80% of the pain medication is taken by citizens of the United States or whoever they are. But that's a serious problem for our country.
You're right.
Leanne, I've got a couple questions. You mentioned teen pregnancy. And I know there's a lot of teens out there and adults that get pregnant and they smoke and they drink and they use drugs. Is there some kind of program out there that you guys do that tries to deal with that and help them, get straight, while they're pregnant and from then on, but especially while they're pregnant?
I'll tell you why I think Smokey and RHA got so excited. When we were meeting, at that meeting, I made the comment that it's a serious problem. We have a maternity clinic at the health department, and I made the comment that probably 75 or 80% of our pregnant moms that we're seeing are using substances. Y'all know I've been here forever. 27, 28 years ago, we'd have a heart attack when somebody came in smoking or if they'd use marijuana. Now, we'd love to see just that. I mean, it is startling, the substances, meth, prescription drug abuse. Some of them are prescription legitimate, but a lot of them are just addicted to prescription medication. They may have had surgery and had it when they had pain and taken it, but then, it's very addictive if not used right. And even if you do use it right, it can be addictive when you have chronic pain. But I made that comment 75, 80%, and it was like, wow, you got to be kidding. And I'm not, no, really. So I went back. I pulled a report that told me person by person, and we went through to make sure it was accurate information. We saw 99 unduplicated patients in 2015, and 68 of them, 68 of the 99 either had mental health issues, substance abuse, or domestic violence, or all three or two. And that's hard core data. So then, subsequent meetings, I showed that to the mental health providers, and we have always tried to access services, but, transportation's an issue, appointments are an issue, there's lots of barriers. So what we're trying to do is have services in-house to eliminate those barriers. Because some of the services are not available, some are out of county, and some are just, not kept appointments, unfortunately. But we try to get them, to social services if they need that help. We try to get them in mental health services, substance abuse services, whatever, even WIC, Women, Infants, and Children's Program does formula for the children. So we, transportation, we try to do that too, so.
Well, are there any churches or community groups out there that are trying to help these people with, with transportation, housing, getting off drugs, counseling, getting back on track, getting their life turned around? Do you know of any that are doing that?
There are some, the Karen Hart's program is certainly one that's out there working hard, trying to be a support system. Of course, we have domestic violence as a resource. There's lots of resources, and there's lots of churches.
I'm referring to drug abuse, mainly.
Not in a organized way, I guess. There's lots of churches that, different groups can pick up the phone and call and say, just this week, we had a client that that's pregnant and doesn't have a working refrigerator. Well, we can get them on WIC all day long and get them milk, but where are you going to put it once I get it for you to have? The stove doesn't work. There is a microwave. Eating healthy is definitely a challenge for this person. So, we were pulling strings and calling around, and sometimes we find it even within employees. Has anybody got a refrigerator? We actually found a repair person that volunteered their time to go work on the dryer. Dryer took second place to the refrigerator. So we have case manager folks that's their job, is to try to get them the resources they need. Now, I can tell you sometimes it's really challenging. There's never enough resources to go around, I guess is a good way to put that.
What are resources?
We try really hard.
What are resources?
Resources are begging and pleading and getting somebody to deliver a chair or a bed, or, sometimes it's finding a car seat. We know the Partnership for Children gives out car seats, so it's hooking them up with what programs have what.
It
But
comes down to money and people.
it
correct?
does. It does. It does. There's some great folks in the community that do step up, but there's still a lot of unmet needs.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
And Leanne, I was able to attend that meeting, with Smoky Mountain, and that was an eye-opening event for me. I knew some of the things, but I was just really taken aback, at what is really going on. But I'm glad these numbers show that, we are improving. But, I think the average person really doesn't, realize what you're seeing every day. And it, really affects a lot of things, the one that is pregnant, and I think y'all discussed that too. And then there was a representative, and Dr. Hefner was there from the schools, and how it goes into the schools when the child, does survive, from all of that. But, we sometimes don't see the whole big picture, how one thing really starts into something else. So, but I'm glad we're, working our way to be better. And I think that's a good thing from everyone in the county. And if we all work together, I think that's how we can, help to provide these things.
I agree. It's going to take all of us to make a difference. They have helped a lot with legislation, because now with the Good Samaritan Act, they've actually, before, those take-back boxes could only be at the Sheriff's Department under lock and key, and they've kind of opened that up a little more to where it can be where you have to have a pharmacy license, but there's some other opportunities now that we're looking at maybe expanding, because the more that we can dispose of properly, the less chances of. Micah was great and did an article on poisoning and prevention. We don't realize how many ways our children and other people can get access to substances, and so much of these medications can look like candy, if you're 2 and 3 years old, or even younger than that. And even some of our teens experimenting with those. Remember, some of y'all heard my Skittles party scare. Several years back, we heard that term in other substance abuse meetings, and I was like, Skittles parties? I came back here, and I always have, folks doing their senior projects at the health department and different interns, and so I started asking them, you heard Skittle parties? Oh, yeah. And I was like, really? I mean, here, and what that is teens are challenged to bring pills, and they put them all in a bowl, and they call it Skittles, and you pass the bowl around, and you take one, and then it comes around, and you take another. It could be, blood pressure pill, blood thinner. I mean, I would be okay if it's probably birth control, but, it could be whatever they find. It could be Tylenol, but that's very dangerous. So any prescriptions that we can get off the street and safely dispose of, is that many more that can't be abused or fall into the wrong hands unintentionally. So lots of education. That's why I appreciate you letting me come here, because it's a great way. I think a lot of times if it hasn't impacted our families, we really aren't aware of the times we live in. Lots, and I'm not against prescription pain medication. It's needed. There's a time and a place, and we need it. But we also need to educate and do a better job on some control measures, and helping people when they get it understand how to take it properly.
And I would say, add to that, parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles need to watch your medicine cabinets, because when you have visitors, things can get gone.
And do. We
And
hear
do.
those stories every day. And, if you've got a bottle of, 60 or 100, you're probably not going to miss 10.
Yep.
2. It can even be visitors coming in to visit you, and because usually we leave them in the bathroom, right? Medicine cabinet, kitchen. Lots of opportunities.
Okay. Thank you, Leanne. Anyone else?
Thank you,
All
gentlemen.
right. Thank you. Okay, item number 4 on the agenda, Shell Building update. I call on David Eisenhower, the EDC Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, for giving me a couple minutes to give you an update on the Alexander Railroad Shell Building. I have a few photos to share with you tonight, and some of these you may recognize. I've shared them with you before, but I wanted to briefly share them again because I think it's really important to help everybody realize the potential benefits that come from having a shell building in your county, and I'll go through some of these rather quickly, but from a historical standpoint, if we look back, what we now know as the Alexander Industrial Park was simply woodlands and farmlands, and at some point that property was purchased by the Alexander Railroad Company and of course rezoned. I heard rezoning mentioned earlier, but the railroad purchased several hundred acres and constructed a 40,000 square foot shell building, which is at the bottom of that photograph, and that original shell building had very similar characteristics to what we're going to talk about a little bit later in the presentation. So that initial shell building eventually grew to what you have today, which is 100,000 square feet, investment in the community of roughly $15 million, 50 employees, and a very strong industry in Paragon Films. And in late 2015, going into this year, plans were put together for a second shell building in the industrial park. And again, this shell building will be financed by Alexander Railroad. And if we look at last week, and there's where we are currently with this shell building. It's coming along very nicely, as you can tell. It very closely matches what the architect said it would. It's a very attractive building, and a couple more photos from the outside of that building. Again, it's 50,000 square feet. It's expandable to 125. It has high ceilings. It has large bay spacing. It is rail served, natural gas served, of course, which makes it stand out. Completion of this building is hopefully scheduled for end of this month, early next month. A couple more photographs from the outside of the building. As I said, this building is, it's a little bit larger. In some ways, the footprint is 50,000 square feet. It is a tilt-up concrete panel building on three sides. One side's a metal side, which is the expandable side of the building. And again, it's fully financed by the Alexander Railroad. The county's part is soft cost related to the building, such as permitting, property taxes, ongoing electrical cost of keeping the building up and going, and also for advertising purposes. The inside of the building, as you can tell, it fits the definition of a shell building. It is, in fact, a shell. The inside will not be finished. The floor will not be poured. It will remain a dirt floor just to provide the maximum flexibility for the next user, or for the first user that comes into the building. One of the other things that is a primary concern for EDC is for advertising. And one of the things that we will be strongly focused on up until the point where we get a user in this building, but we're already scheduling print advertising. This one is with the Charlotte Regional Partnership's annual Economic Development Guide. It's a good publication from the standpoint especially that copies are mailed out to CEOs and site selectors. The Charlotte Regional Partnership staff that's responsible for helping us recruit new businesses, they will distribute these magazines as they visit with companies. Of course, we'll have copies here, and it's a yearly publication, so the shelf life of the advertising is a year long. Another one that we're looking at is Site Selection Magazine, which is the premier magazine in this area. It has an audited subscription, which is very important, of more than 45,000. It is hands down one of the top publications in the United States, and we will be advertising here full page in September. And one thing to keep in mind with advertising, unfortunately, unless we get very lucky, it won't be a one-shot deal. You just can't simply throw a full-page ad in a magazine and be done with it. So this is going to be an ongoing type of endeavor in terms of advertising. There are other magazines that we're looking at but haven't really made decisions on yet. One of the things that I'm most excited about at this point is the Certified Industrial Building Program. This is in progress right now. This will be a program with the Department of Commerce that recognizes this building, once we get through this program, as being, quote, certified, which simply is just a designation that helps prospects feel comfortable that that this building is indeed a good building from terms of structural quality, from environmental issues, from title issues, and many other things. So it's just a buyer safety program, really, that help encourage people to understand that all is well with this building. And I'll be coming back to you in the future with more information about the certification process. One of the things, too, about this building is in its current configuration, if we search on the North Carolina Department of Commerce's main website, Access NC, with the size of this building, with natural gas, with rail service, with the other parameters of this building, it is currently the only one in the state of North Carolina that fits the parameters of shell building, natural gas, 50,000 square foot, rail service, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a good thing, that we're going to use that to our advantage when marketing as well. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, that concludes my presentation. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have about the shell building. I want to express, again, my appreciation to the Alexander Railroad for their courage to step out and fund the construction of this. And I want to thank you guys for backing us up and helping the railroad. If you have questions, I said I'll be glad to answer them. And following that, I'd ask your indulgence for a 30-second commercial for the upcoming Rocky Fest event. So any questions about the shell building?
Well, I'd just like to make a comment, and again, I want to reiterate what you say, or said, that we need to thank the Alexander Railroad Company for stepping up and doing this. It's a very unique property and very unique building, and I think the future will be bright out there, and they're stepping up to the plate, and it's going to be a great thing to help this community and help their company as well. So,
Absolutely.
one thing about the Certified Industrial Building program, I kind of relate it to residential property. That's kind of like getting the getting a property inspection on a residential home before you actually even put it on the market. So
Yes,
it
sir.
answers a lot of questions that a buyer's going to have.
Yes.
And it's certified, so they don't have to go out there and spend the time and the money to do it themselves.
Correct.
Anybody else?
David, I just want to say thank you for the work the EDC's done. I appreciate the effort you folks have put forward. And I'd also like to say thank you for continuing your strong effort toward retail business for this county, because I know that you guys have made great strides in trying to do everything you could to bring retail business in here. And hopefully in the near future that retail business will bring new revenue to Alexander County. Because right now it's the only way I see us getting any more new revenue is through the retail and through the fact that maybe the shell building will bring more prosperity to Alexander County. Thank you and your staff, and to the county staff and to Alexander Railroad for all you've done. Thank you very much, sir.
I appreciate those comments, Commissioner.
David, a couple of questions. You mentioned those publications. I assume there's an online component to that too, so
Yeah.
not only do you have a written publication, you have a site and.
Yes, sir, that's correct. In fact, it's a major part of it with the print publication that you get, online presence with it, and so that will be as equally valuable, really. Yeah. Thank you for that question. Okay.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, with the board's indulgence, we have a 30-second Rocky-faced commercial that I believe Chad is going to play for you. Thank you.
The public is invited to Rocky Fest on Saturday, April 23rd at Rocky Face Park in Hiddenite, North Carolina. The event will feature activities for the entire family, including 5, 10, and 20K trail races, free rock climbing classes, children's activities, live music featuring David Curley, Sugarloaf Ramblers, The Neighbors, Cane Mill Road, Strictly Strings, Shadowgrass, and the Yayas. Food, arts, and crafts vendors will be on hand. Activities are free and open to the public. For more information, visit rockyfacepark.com/rockyfest.
All right, thank you. Item number 5 on the agenda, Alexander County Sales Tax and Finance Report. Call on Rick French, County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your packet, you have the county sales tax revenue report. Through March 2016, we have collected $2,376,800 $1,812, which is 61% of the budget that's been collected through 58.3% of our budget time. We budgeted $3,891,000 in sales tax revenue for the budget 2015-2016. We were 5.3% ahead of the same time for last year. As far as overall financial, we're going to talk a little bit later about setting up another meeting and talk about a couple of financial items. But I would like to say that through 7 months, through February, our expenses are just a little under $23 million, and our revenues are almost at $29 million. So we're about 61% of our expenses and about 75% of our revenues. The way our budget flows and revenue flows, most of our revenues or property taxes are collected during one time period, so that's not that unusual, and that's good, but we really want to keep focus on the expense end. And so we're running about a little over 4% less on our expenses, and we're keeping an eye on that. And we'll give you more information at our next meeting that we set up later on tonight. I'll be glad to try to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. French, I have one question.
Okay.
And asking it is kind of difficult without, but anyway, last budget, did we budget generally about the same amount of revenues as we budgeted for this year in sales tax?
Generally, yes, sir.
Okay. So are we running about the same? I understand we're 5.3% over last year, but do you think we're going to actually end up better this year than we did last year?
I do, yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman, if I can make one quick point to reiterate the importance of increased sales tax revenue for our county. I did some quick math, and $3,891,000, which is our projected total sales tax revenue for the year, equates to, and I had a conversation with Commissioner Campbell earlier this week, and somehow my brain has shifted to where any amount of money, I turn it into how many cents is that on property tax. But that $3,891,000 only makes up 15.5 cents of our, if you equate that to property tax, of our 79-cent per 100 property tax rate. Sales tax would only be 15.5 cents. And I feel sure you remember, because I know most of the county does, we were somewhat forced to raise the tax rate a year ago, and to put into context how small that amount of money that sales tax revenue creates, the tax increase honestly, I feel we're forced to put in place was 12.5 cents, and our total sales tax income is only 15.5 cents.
Hence the leakage that was referenced earlier,
Hence.
the $129
Correct.
million, $147 now.
$147 million.
Yeah.
So every dollar that's spent in this county actually brings in sales tax revenue to offset property taxes, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Bingo.
Good job. Yes, and I would point out, we've been talking about retail sales for a long time. Manufacturing's great. You got to have manufacturing. You got to have people located here that are making a good wage, and manufacturing produces a good wage with good benefits. But you've also got to have retail sales, because if you don't have retail sales, you don't have the service jobs. You don't have these people that are, able to get a part-time job to support their other job. Everybody I know has got 2 jobs, so just to make it. manufacturing is a good thing, but as far as bringing in money to the county to offset property taxes, sales taxes creates a lot more of that, so. And we need all the retail sales that we can get. So if there's something that, you know, I know people have to shop outside of Alexander County. You can't always buy everything here. But the more that you do shop here, the more things that will be relocated here, the more opportunities you'll have to buy things. So it does matter. Every penny that's, you know, possible, spend here in this county. And if that were the case, and, you know, Larry and I'm not going to go back and rehash all this, but we talked for years, we're too low on our property tax rate. And I know you guys came in and you had to bite the bullet and do it, but, you know, if we'd have raised the tax rates just a little bit several years ago, we wouldn't have had to have this big tax increase all at once. And you can say that until you're blue in the face, but nobody listens to you, you know.
The one thing that I'm looking forward to seeing what happens is this new sales tax that they put on getting your car repaired and all that. They keep telling us it'll bring in $1.5 million to Alexander County. Maybe Mr. French can answer the question, but Mr. French, I still, was that per capita or point of sale, or was that just for the rural counties? Do you remember exactly where that law was written? I do not, sir, and I don't want to make a statement that be wrong.
It's not for all the counties. It's for a number of the counties, but it's not for all the counties.
Right, so it'll be for all the rural counties. All the money will be taken from all 100 counties, and the money will be divided per capita among the rural counties. Is that correct?
Yes, but what you're talking about with the new sales tax,
right, the new sales
that would go to other, maybe some of the larger counties like Catawba and Iredell, we would get part of those funds.
Right.
There's two parts to that change.
Right.
There it is.
And one of those parts is that it changed from point of sale, part of that, to per capita. And
right.
we're going to see, hopefully, a $1.3 to $1.5 million increase in sales tax revenues coming into Alexander County.
The only thing I'll say about that, you're going to have to show me.
Well, I stress hope.
Hey, I've watched the state take that money away more than one time, guys, and I know everybody thinks I'm crazy, and they think that I just say things, or I nod my head the wrong way or something, or somehow, you know, I might shake my head no when I mean yes, or might shake my head yes whenever I don't even know what I'm talking about. But my point is, you got to show me the money. I mean, now I'm telling you, don't count on that 1.3 or $1.5 million until you get it. Make sure, I'm not going to be here after November, but make sure that when you start seeing these funds come in, please pay particular attention to the fact of whether or not you're really going to get that money or not, because I'm telling you, what the state giveth, the state findeth a way to take awayeth. I assure you that. I mean, I'm the honest thing to be to you.
Yep.
So, you know, pay strict attention, and I'll shake my head yes, folks, because honestly, that's the truth. Thank you.
Well, I think expense control is the other part of that equation is, you know, don't count on that, but control what we can control.
Right.
And I think that's the expense piece.
Yeah. And the other thing that Commissioner Cameron said a couple of weeks ago, if the gasoline prices would stay down to about $1.68 to $1.72 to $1.84, then you see more people spending money and doing the things that they want to do. But now, as you see with the transition to the summer fuel, the gasoline prices have jumped up to $1.99, and that takes away from that money that families have to be able to spend. So that will also contribute to our sales tax also. Thank you.
I would like to say one thing. People, just to clarify something, I get this question all the time. Does the county receive any sales tax money from gasoline sales? And no, we do not. All of the sales tax that you pay on gasoline goes to the state or federal government.
So they can pave those roads, Mr. Riddle's talking.
Pave the road.
Yeah, do that good job on the road.
North Carolina is the good road state, if I remember. That's what they used to call it.
But now, one thing I do have to give the state of North Carolina credit for on that also is that they stopped taking the highway use tax, taking it out and putting it in the general fund. They stopped that, and that's why you're starting to see more and more of them trying to rehab their highways. whether it's good or whether it's bad. I'm not going to make a statement of whether it's good or whether it's bad. I don't travel 64. I still travel to 90. Okay, I like going down 90. But that is the one good thing that the state of North Carolina has done. They stopped taking that money out of the highway use tax to use for the general fund, and now they're using it to repair the highways.
And
And
they're
they've
doing
done a good job with that.
Yeah, they are doing it, because I've seen more road construction in the last
Yes.
6 weeks than I have in the last 6 years, seems like. Okay, anybody else?
One other thing, even though gas tax does not generate local sales tax, go ahead and stop before you cross the county line,
Yeah.
because when you walk in the store and you buy those cheese crackers and that Pepsi, the sales tax
Sales
from
tax
that
stays
does stay here.
The more you shop here, the lower the property rate.
The only reason convenience stores sell gas is so you can buy crackers and Pepsis.
Exactly.
They need to do that inside the county line.
All right. Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Let's see, item number 6 on the agenda, board appointments and reappointments. Calling Rick French, County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appointments, the Library Board of Trustees appoint Don Chumley. Planning and Zoning Commission reappoint Dana Benfield, Bud Kaywood, Steve Eisenhower for 2 years. Health Board appoint Scott Westmoreland for 3 years. Building Services Advisory Committee appoint Brian Walker for 1 year, and we still have one vacancy on the Senior Center Board.
Move to approve the appointment.
Second.
We've got a, I was thinking about something else. We've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Just one thing, Mr. French, if maybe most of these people I know, but if somehow we could just put a little bullet point on who they are, because sometimes I don't recognize everybody all the time, and I know you guys may.
Okay.
But it just kind of helps, not like a resume or anything, but just a couple bullet points, who they are, what they do.
Okay.
If that's okay. I mean, I know they're serving voluntarily, and that's great, but it just helps to peel back the layer a little bit.
I just mentioned before we take a vote, on the Health Board, we've got Scott Westmoreland, who is a engineer, I believe. And then also Brian Walker is going to be appointed to the Building Services Advisory Committee. And they're going to be taking the vacancy chair of Clint Canada, who served, I guess, over 30 years on the Health Board. Is that
That's
correct?
right. That's
Yeah,
correct.
it's over 30 years. And he passed away a couple months ago, and he was a good guy, and I served with him on the Building Services Advisory Committee for close to 10 years, and he lived real close to me, so he was going to be missed. But, all right, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion passes unanimously. Item number 7 on the agenda, budget ordinance amendments, number 31 and number 33. Rick French, County Manager.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. We have a few budget amendments for your consideration tonight. Budget amendment number 31 is to increase 911 communications budget due to an AT&T increase for tower site data circuits, which are requested to be replaced by county-owned equipment in the upcoming budget year, which will save that money, and also to increase the EMS budget for an estimate from the NCACC. They have an administrative fee for the EMS Medicaid cost settlement program, which we receive each year. Budget amendment number 32 is to adjust the Health Department budget for additional environmental health, food, and lodging funds, and for the cut to regular environmental health state funds. Also to increase the Health Department budget for additional STD prevention funds and Healthy Communities funds. And budget amendment number 33 is to increase the 911 fund budget for 911 addressing costs. I'll be glad to try to answer any questions about those amendments.
Mr. French, one question that I had when I was looking at this earlier, just for clarification, on budget amendment number 32, environmental health, food, and lodging,
Yes, sir.
can you just give us an example of what that would be or what that entails?
It's For meetings and for,
Okay. Training?
yes, sir.
Okay, like, so,
Yes, sir.
so training in Raleigh?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Stuff that's required.
right. I was kind of assuming that's what it was, but I
It
try
is.
not to assume.
What?
Sorry, acting up.
Any more questions?
Is that kind of, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. French, is that from some new employees, the reason we're seeing an
No.
increase? Or
No,
just-
sir, that's not.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve the budget ordinances as presented.
Okay, we've got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion passes unanimously. Okay, on item number 8, schedule a second commissioners meeting in April 2016. I call on Rick French, County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's a couple of dates that several of you have discussed, either scheduling a meeting April 18th or April 25th. The 25th, of course, is the week before our May meeting, but we may need additional time to get information on our health insurance costs, which we're working on. So one of those two dates would be, I don't know which works for most of you, but either one of those two dates would be the better dates, I think.
I think 25th would be better.
We'll try 25th.
I emailed you, Jamie. Either one of those dates work for me, so.
25th's not, doesn't work for me, but
Okay.
if I'm the only one, I'm out of state.
Either one's fine with me.
What two dates, the 18th or 25th?
Yes, sir.
Will, do you feel like?
Are you able to be
do you
there the
feel like
18th?
we will have that stuff by the 18th?
I am.
18th would probably be better. That way you give you
Well-
about 2 weeks to digest it.
Well, we got to make sure we've got it back.
Oh,
Because
okay.
right now, we're,
Right now,
when it's not, I think it will be.
25th is about the latest that we can make a decision on that, is it correct?
No,
No?
No, it's not, but I mean, you'll need all the time especially if we're going to change.
What's the latest date?
April the 30th.
April 30th, okay.
No, I can't on that.
But we need time to get the
Yeah, I know we
information
need time to go
and so
through
you
it.
guys can look at everything. We can divide everything out for you.
was 18th work for everybody?
18th works for me.
That's good with me, I mean.
I don't mean to mess y'all up. I'm sorry, it's work.
It's your fault.
I mean, I don't have a choice.
Is that
Well,
6
once
o'clock?
again, unless I have a daughter, I'm expecting a grandson, so.
Another one?
Yeah, we're gonna build Alexander County here if we can. But no, that, should be good.
Okay.
Sorry.
So the
I'll make a
18th
motion, we have the meeting on April 18th, Mr. Chairman.
6.
Huh?
Yes.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock here.
Okay.
I'll second that since I'm.
Will it,
Is there any discussion?
Ms. Clerk, will it be here?
Yes.
If it's available.
Okay.
Oh, okay, so that's April 18th.
If it's available.
If it's not, we'll have it downstairs.
Okay.
Okay.
Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion passes unanimously. Okay, item number 9 on the agenda, County Manager's Report. Rick French, County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a number of items, just quick items to bring to your attention. One, the gas line project for Mitchell Gold and Bob Williams is well underway. Of course, you know the CVCC Alexander Applied Technology Center project is also well underway and should be wrapping up in the next couple of months. We have started meeting. We have 2 folks that are interested in doing a broadband feasibility study in the county. Mr. James Fortner and Mr. Ted McGavran have requested a feasibility study, and we're moving forward with the application. At this time, it's not committed any funds, but the study would be for approximately $20,000. So that's will be submitted by the COG. Beginning April the 1st, effective last week, the Planning and Zoning Department Planning and Inspections Department will no longer close the office from 1 to 2 for lunch. This should help provide improved customer service. We're closing out the Bethlehem Ellendale Water Project. Those projects are just about ready to be wrapped up. Also, there's a number of activities going on. David talked about Rocky Fest this past weekend. Robbins Run was held. They had their 6th 5K run, and it was very successful. Currently, there's a big baseball tournament going on in Alexander County, the 2016 Ernie Matheson Tournament. It started on Friday, and a number of local teams playing. On Thursday, April 28th, Western Piedmont Council of Government will have their annual meeting. It's at the Crown Plaza, and Jamie will be asking you about that. Also, we received notice the Department of Transportation is doing a spring litter sweep, April 16th through the 30th. There's information online if you are interested in checking it out. If you would visit your local DOT maintenance office, they will supply gloves, safety vests, orange trash bags, and numbers of other things. And for more information, if you would contact www.ncdot.gov/littersweep to download. There's a number of forms for that. But the DOT spring litter sweep is April 16th through the 20th. One other thing I want to mention, which is not good news, but I think you all are aware. We have received a letter from Caldwell County, and you have a copy of that in your packet, that is informing us that on May 15th, Caldwell County is going to be pulling their inmates out of our detention center. Sheriff Jones has informed the Caldwell Board that he now finds the Caldwell jail population in a decline, and so they no longer need the housing in our detention facility, and that will have a pretty big impact on us. The Sheriff's Department, I know, is trying to work on that and trying to fill that revenue void, and with less inmates, we will have less cost. So we'll be talking about that more in the budget, but this is a big item. We budgeted $565,000, I think, this past year for revenue for the detention center. So that's something we're going to have to tackle as we get into the budget. And I think that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Rich, just talking about the jail population in Caldwell County pulling out. I watched a special on CBS Sunday morning about the prison system in Germany and how folks from North Carolina have gone over and visited this prison system. Instead of housing inmates for life, they actually have them in they have them in rehab. And even if you're in for murder at the end of 20 years, that they're letting you out if you've gone through this rehab program successfully. They're trying to get people across the United States and across the world to look at Germany's process that they use to rehab inmates that would save the United States a lot of money if they would find some way to rehab these people instead of having the mentality of just locking people away for years and years and years. And it's very interesting. I'm not saying that I'm for it or against it. I'm saying you need to take a look at this program on CBS. It was very good. It was on CBS Sunday morning. And CBS Sunday morning usually has some really, really good programs. And this was one of the most interesting programs. I had heard about this in Washington, and I couldn't believe it. I didn't get to see any pictures. I was just told about it, and I cannot believe the rehab program that they have. They're rehabbing these folks that will save the state of North Carolina a lot of money. But you'd be surprised at the rooms that these folks are living in the prison system. Their rooms that they're jailed in look better than most people's dormitories that our kids go to college. And they're rehabbing these folks, and they've got them working. And so far, the process is actually working in Germany, and some of the correctional folks are looking at that to try to see if there's some way that they can do something to increase the rehab programs in our state prisons. And I gave that for y'all for information because I think you'd really be interested in looking at it. It's very good.
Mr. Chairman, I failed to mention one thing in my report, if I could just mention it. Also included in the manager's report is a memo from Emergency Services Director Russell Green about locating, having a central helipad here to be located on county property, and it'd just be on an open field, the open field just north of the new Applied Technology Center. It wouldn't be any kind of pad, it'd just be an area that's mowed, but just wanted to mention that.
I've got a question about the inter-county agreement. Okay, that's going to be up. So what is the known impact? I know there's things that we're trying to do, but what's the known impact going to be to the budget?
35, it'll be 35 inmates, and it'll be about $550,000 in dollars.
550,000?
Annually,
Annually, 500 and what?
50.
550,000.
Yes.
Is that enough?
And when they stop in at May 15th, that'll be that much less revenue we'll have for the rest of the fiscal year, so.
Okay. So $550,000 a year loss in revenue.
Or a little over 2 cents is.
Yep. Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman and Mr. French, I think I probably know, but what's the total number of beds that they were paying us for?
35.
35 beds?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And how many beds are there in the?
150.
150?
Yes, sir. 12 isolated.
And they pay for the 35 beds, whether there's somebody there or not.
That's correct.
So, yeah, that's one thing. Mr. Chairman, I know that if you don't mind, I want to make a comment also. This past week, Ritchie, was it fired? They make trucks over there.
Anchor Ritchie.
Anchor Ritchie. This past week, folks, Anchor Ritchie, they rolled out a new truck over there, and those things will be sold to, I guess, nationwide, best I can understand it. This is a big thing for Alexander County. These folks have put a lot of hard work and a lot of engineering into these, and I want to commend Ritchie for the job they've done over there and the progress they have made in the last 10 years. They have done a tremendous job over there, and that's an asset for Alexander County, and that also it will bring in tremendous advertisement for Alexander County and for the city of the town of Taylorsville. So to the Ritchies, thank you, and appreciate the hard work that they've done. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knew about that. That's a big plus for Alexander County.
And I will say they are one of those employers that are almost ridiculously good to their employees.
Yes, very good.
It's a tight-knit
Group.
great company.
And one
They build
question.
some cool stuff.
Do we have any prospects on filling those beds? I mean, I know there've been a lot of jails built in surrounding counties,
Yeah.
which basically sucked up our ability to lease out space.
Yes, sir, they're working on it. They're working
Okay.
on it.
Okay.
It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
We have some items for a short closed session, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Our attorney's here.
All right, we'll move on from the county manager's report. The consent agenda, is there a motion?
Move to approve the consent agenda as is.
Second?
Second.
I seconded, but anyway.
Double second.
Is there any discussion? There be none, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Okay, and we will be going into closed session per North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A, 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6 to prevent the disclosure of confidential information, attorney-client privilege, economic development, contractual, and personnel. And I make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. We will be returning to our regular meeting just for the purpose of adjournment. Okay, thank you. All right.